Hi, welcome to the podcast Beyond the Ballot, a Lone Wolf production. This is where we showcase local politics by providing a platform for elected officials and candidates. Today's episode is sponsored by the Committee to Re-elect William Faulkner. I'm proud to introduce the guest for today's show, William Faulkner, Town Councilman re-elect. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dominique. A pleasure to be here.
So let's start with the getting to know you questions.
Sure.
Tell us about your personal background. How long have you lived in Somers? And what do you think makes this area so special?
Sure. From a personal background perspective, I've been in Somers since 1995, and I'm proud to say this is my first election or re-election where I can honestly say I've been in Somers for most of my life now. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And as you might expect, the best thing about it, of course, are the people. There's a lot of great things about the town, the way it works, the way it's organized, but that's all built on the foundation of the people. We've said many times, it's almost a catchphrase in town, that Somers runs on its volunteers. And that is very, very true. And if you look around, whether it's the Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, coaching, Parks and Recs board, our zoning board, our Veterans Committee board, our
Lions
planning
Club?
board, our Lions Club. It's nothing but volunteers. And we're very fortunate to have that and to have that interest and bit of participation. And it's incredible when you look at the results of what's been done, either on the charity front or on the town front. And I know we're going to get into that, but it's a track record that I'm very, very proud of.
Who were your mentors or role models that have made a difference in your life?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, on the political side, since we're talking politics, clearly I would start with Ronald Reagan. I mean, everybody loves Ronald Reagan. If there was a second Mount Rushmore, I'm pretty sure he would be up there. He was just honest. He was the great communicator. He follows in the footsteps of Lincoln and our party, the great emancipator. And he was very impressive. He had a lot of battles. He had a lot of challenges, but he led the country through 8 really great years. On a personal note, one of my greatest influencers was my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Hazelwood. And I still remember her, and I'm still grateful to her and all teachers. But basically, you know, when you're an 8-year-old boy in the 3rd grade, all you're concerned about is recess and kickball. But she somehow reached me and impressed upon me that, you know, academics is important. And academics can be cool, and it's okay if you're good at academics. And that was kind of an interesting point. And after that, I just kind of strived and tried harder to be a better and better student. And it kind of worked out. It got me through high school, graduating in the top 10% of my class. It got me through Purdue with a bachelor's degree in finance. It got me through Fordham on the dean's list with a master's degree in finance. And it got me into some executive training programs up at Harvard, up in Massachusetts. So those are some particular people that have influenced me.
Very impressive. And lastly, is there anything about yourself that people might not know or may find interesting?
Yeah, a lot of people know, but not all people, not many people. I've spent my career 30 plus years in the boardroom in corporate America and Fortune 100 companies, very often Fortune 10 companies. But I've always been fascinated with flight and aviation. And when I was 16 years old, I was very fortunate. In the entire state, they selected 12 cadets of the Civil Air Patrol and only 12 cadets in the Civil Air Patrol to go to flight school. And at 16 years old, I was actually and did legally fly an airplane by myself before I could even drive a car by myself. So it's been a lifelong passion. I got into the U.S. Air Force Academy. I was anxious to go there, but facts are facts, and I wear glasses, and I do not have 20/20 vision. And at the time, that was enough to keep you out of any sort of flight training program in the Air Force. C'est la vie. But one day, you know, many years later, I woke up 40-something years old, decided that I wanted to finish that pilot's license, and then did. From there, bought an airplane. From there, had some flight instructors who wanted to borrow it, use it for additional flight training. So we rented it out. And then we had a lot more people who wanted to do the same, and we bought another airplane. And so now, you know, my main vocation is a flight school up in Schenectady, New York. affiliated with the State University of New York Schenectady College, and we are all about training the next generation of excellent pilots. So the next time you guys want to go on vacation with your family, you hopefully won't be experiencing too many delays because of the pilot shortage.
I have to admit that's my biggest phobia is flying.
Really?
I can't stand it.
Would you go up with me if I invited you for a ride? You're more than welcome.
Is it a little?
It is. It's a small. They're small private planes, one propeller, 4 seats, and
I trust you.
Plenty of room. Get back to me on that. You can get back to me on that.
So, all right. So let's talk a little bit more about your professional experience and what has specifically prepared you for the role of town councilman.
Yeah, I think it's twofold, and I think it's those two very same things. Either the experience from the classroom or the boardroom. The classroom was really good training, especially when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're at the college level and college age. You're just not going to have business experience just yet, but it's a great training ground. But then when you do get to the boardroom, you learn a lot of things that are reinforced from your formal education, but a lot of things that they don't touch on. You know, there's the human dynamic, there's human interaction and human nature. And when you're in the boardroom, there can be a lot of different factions vying for a lot of different positions. So what that taught me over time, I think, is some very good and some very useful diplomatic leadership skills. It's important to be objective. It's important to hear everybody out. And if you truly want, like I do, to come up with a win-win solution, you have to do all those things. You have to be smart. You have to bring to the table what you've already learned, and you have to bring some creative solutions, some of which may never have been thought of before, but nonetheless, many, many which were very successful. So I enjoyed a lot of success out of that as well.
What has caused you to initially run for town councilman, and what continues to be your motivation?
Yeah, originally, there was just an ad in the paper. I've always been interested in national politics, international politics, foreign relations. And my party just had an ad in the Somers Record saying that there's going to be a position open. Anybody who's interested, please let folks know. And I did. There was an interview process, and I was fortunate to get through that process and become the nominee. And we've had 3 very convincing wins since then, and hopefully on November 4th, that will be a 4th.
What is your favorite part of being a town councilman?
Yeah, the best part is really, truly just helping people. It's just been something that has been part of my entire life. We talked a moment ago about the Civil Air Patrol. They were very involved with the Special Olympics, helping and hosting and coordinating all of those events for years. I've done Meals on Wheels as a corporate captain for my time at General Electric, and that's just continued. We talked about the Lions. I was president for the last term, and it's only a 1-year term, but we did a lot of tremendous and great things for the local citizens as well. So it's, I guess, that spirit of philanthropy that kind of keeps me going, and more practically, it would be things like permit filing. When someone comes to me and says, I'm having a hard time, I don't know who to go to, I don't know who to call, we're closing on our house, we're trying to sell next week, and I got this issue, can you help me? By all means, you know, we point them in the right direction, we hold their hand, and we make sure they get through the process. So those are the kinds of things I find most gratifying. And it does seem to be helpful, and people seem to enjoy it. I mean, the alternative is frustration with government bureaucracy. I think we've got enough of that in all of our lives. So if I can help alleviate a bit of that, that would be a good thing.
Throughout your term, what accomplishments are you most proud of? There's a lot. Most recently and most notably, I would have to say it was the battery farm. The battery farm here in Carmel, or proposed here in Carmel, which was bordering Somers. And I don't mean bordering by like a quarter mile or a half a mile up the road. I mean, this was literally in the backyards of our citizens. And it was potentially a very frustrating situation because a lot of people could have taken the position that, hey,
this is not in Somers. It's out of our jurisdiction. I'm sorry, but there's nothing we can do. And I chuckle a little bit at anybody who ever says there's nothing we can do, because there's always something you can do. And this was really a textbook example, I think, of a great partnership between the citizenry and the government and the local government. All of us were involved. All of us were engaged. And especially the citizens, right? There were rallies right outside of the Olympic Diner on Route 6 to bring awareness and attention to this. There was a lot of phone calls between myself, Anthony Sirico, Councilman Sirico, and Supervisor Scarano, between us, the County of Westchester, the County of Putnam, the mayors here in Carmel. There was a lot of discussion, and I don't know anybody, other than some folks who may have made some money on this, who was in favor of this.
I was going to say, what would have been the advantages of having this facility in a residential area like this? Yeah.
The benefits of it being in a residential area are no more than it being somewhere tucked out of the way. So my recommendation would be to just have it somewhere, pick a number, 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles away from any sort of population center. I think that would be much more reasonable. And it's simple safety. As we've come to learn, when these things catch fire, and they do, I'm sorry, they are a disaster to put out. And I know some people were trying to say, hey, this is going to be confined. It's going to be in a short area. Once you start spraying things into the atmosphere, there are no borders. There are no state lines, county lines, town lines. It's going everywhere. And so many people, thousands of people lived within a mile, 2 miles, 5 miles of that epicenter of that planned development, that obviously we couldn't stand still and we couldn't stand quiet. So we did the right thing. We contacted everybody and said, this is a bad idea.
Right. And all the businesses, daycare centers and so forth. Yeah. With an evacuation plan, it would have been disastrous, right?
You're a mom.
Yeah.
Would you like to get a
I'm within
pamphlet?
the 5 mile radius.
You're well within the 5 mile. Yeah. Would you want to get a pamphlet from your daycare provider that says, I don't want you to worry about this potential atom bomb in our backyard because we've got an evacuation plan? There you go. That is not gonna work.
No. Yeah. Tough time. It was a really stressful time.
And it was, and unnecessarily so. We had, but it also underscores quite a bit of inconsistency, bordering on hypocrisy coming out of Albany.
Right. Home rule, right? Preserving home rule.
Fascinating, right? That's what's supposed to be the case. But in this case and so many others, the state will come out and say, well, we don't really care about your home rule because we're committed to green energy. Well, let me say this. I am 100% committed to green energy as well if it's cost effective. If it's going to cost more, you do not have my permission to overtax and overcharge my citizens. It makes no sense.
And like you said, the safety concern, if it was to, or most likely it would at one point have the possibility of going on fire, you would have contaminated air and water, and this being a watershed for New York City and so forth.
Yep.
So I think it negates any
Excellent
type
point.
of environmental practice of theirs of being green.
Excellent point. Yeah, they're contradicting their own rules, aren't they?
Right.
And you could take another example. There was an idea where they wanted to put a traffic circle in front of Somers High School in lieu of a traffic light. And the state was behind it, and I understand their position. But one of the inhibitors was designated wetlands, state designated wetlands. But once the state wants to put a traffic circle on state designated wetlands, that immediately goes away. What if the town of Somers or the town board of Somers wanted to eliminate the state standard of wetlands for a certain amount of property so that we would be able to pursue our own development? Again, just invoking the home rule that you spoke about, which is so very important. Would we be able to just nollie that like Albany? I don't think so.
I just, I did a little bit of research into your tenure. So just in case, I want to make sure we touched on all your accomplishments.
Sure.
So I saw that you had the lowest tax town in Westchester, and we're able to stay under the tax cap. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I can never in good conscience vote for a budget that would break the tax cap. It's bad for many reasons. It triggers a whole bunch of other financial punishments that we don't want. And every budget cycle is different. The town budget is $15 million. The school board budget is $100+ million. And that's about standard. You know, the school budget is about 7 times the town budget in any given town. But we want to stay under the tax cut for a tax cap for obvious reasons. But also it's just good financial discipline. If you blew the tax cap one year, you're probably more inclined to blow it on the next year or a year after that. And then we all know, I mean, citizens, the voters, what's their biggest issue? You know, safety, taxes, schools are always at the top of that list. And, you know, taxes can be managed down. And we've done that. I'm proud of that. I believe 3 out of the last 12 years, 3 or more out of the last 12 years, possibly 3 of the last 8 years, we've actually had a 0% tax increase. So the tax cap is somewhere in the neighborhood between 2 and 3, depending on the year. But we in Somers have had a 0% tax increase for several of those years.
You also were able to secure $5 million in grants for infrastructure improvements.
Yeah. Yep. Also something we're proud of and something we've really ramped up over the last few years. Since Supervisor Scarano got on board, we've hired a professional company, a professional grant writing company. And although it does cost a little bit of money, and it's in the budget, and it is a legitimate expense, the return on that, as you can see, has been well worth it. And we'll go anywhere. You know, we'll go to the state and look for grants. We'll go to the county and look for grants. We'll go to the Fed and look for grants. And we've been successful, but we're always looking for more.
You mentioned safety being also, you know, always a priority for the citizens. Yeah. Sidewalk and crosswalk for Route 202 to improve safety for school children and residents.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You know, sidewalks in a town center are obviously very helpful. You can walk from Town Hall to CVS, to Bobo's and Heritage Hills, to the banks. It's real easy. It's real convenient. I think it also adds to that hometown feel that we like and appreciate in Somers. And
some
it was
foot traffic.
And then there's more foot traffic. But most importantly, and you mentioned the crosswalk, we've honored Thelma Barlow, appropriately so, and named that particular crossroad after her. She was the crossing guard. For those who don't know, she was the crossing guard for the middle school for decades. And she's just a dedicated, wonderful person. And it was a little bit of a challenge. You know, there was some earth that had to be moved to do it. But at the end of the day, you've got the middle schoolers, right? 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They're getting older. They're not babies anymore. And they love to go to Bobo's after school. And there was only one way to get there. But to cross 202 previously was not very safe. There wasn't a don't walk sign. There wasn't a literal pattern on the asphalt that showed you where the crosswalk was. And even if there was one at the time, again, on the Bobo side of the street, there was nothing to walk to. You would just be walking on the side of the road or on the shoulder, in this case, a very narrow shoulder. So those are some good places, I think, where sidewalks were very, very helpful. And I would guess the parents of those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders think so as well.
And another thing that was added was the expansion of pickleball and tennis courts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Another good example, I think, of, you know, how this town board does react quickly and appropriately to our citizens. Pickleball has just been a phenom nationwide. And so we've needed to develop more and more pickleball courts. There's additional ones at Reese Park today. The feedback we've gotten was, that's great, but we also need more. So there's a development going up by Stop and Shop that's going to include a community center, and that community center will welcome everybody in Somers, not just the residents of this development, including pickleball courts. So we're very happy to be able to provide that to the folks and react to them. And I mean, what's not to like about physical fitness?
Right. Mm-hmm. And the last bullet point that I have, leadership in fighting substance abuse and addressing the mental health crisis.
Yes. These are newer challenges, but certainly growing challenges. I myself have a dosage of Narcan in my car, in my glove compartment, wherever I go. I wish I didn't have to need it, but I would hate like crazy to be in a situation where, I wish I had it on me. That is just literally life-saving tools, and we're very proud of that. To rewind just a little bit, when Narcan first came out, it was very, very expensive. And again, we are fiscally very responsible, but in this case, we said, okay, we're just going to have to get all of our police cars are going to be loaded with Narcan. All of our officers are going to be trained. Is there an expiration date
with Narcan?
There is. I'd have to look on the box to see when it is, and don't quote me, but it's, maybe a year-ish.
So it was expensive, and you had to refill the...
Yes. Yeah. But we found the money for it because it was just that important. We did it. We implemented it. And fortunately, the price has come down, and we distribute it now like Halloween candy. If you want some Narcan, you can have some. Carry it in your purse, carry it in your glove compartment, whatever the case may be. You never know when you could be called on to save a life.
Are there any challenges that you've faced as a town councilman that you can recall?
The challenges? Yeah, we've got another round of budgets coming up exactly right now, starting Tuesday and Wednesday. And the challenge is going to be to diplomatically say no to some ideas, or no to some, or at least a delay to some ideas. We do have good funding. We do have solid funding. We are rock solid when it comes to fiscal health. But we don't have endless funds either. If we did have endless funds, everybody would have a drone taking your kids to school every day. It's just not the case. But services have continually increased. Taxes have stayed continually flat, and those are some good things that will continue.
If you're reelected, what goals or ambitions do you have for the future of Somers?
In a nutshell, to summarize, it would be to continue the common sense. The common sense has been the cornerstone of how we've governed, for me over the last 12 years, for Rob over the last 4 years, for Tony over the last 13 years. So to continue the common sense, I think would be the right thing. Whenever there's an issue, whenever there's a question, I think we do a good job responding to it. We all remember all too recently ago was a tragedy with Charlie Kirk, and there was a groundswell to do something. And there was not a lot of time. There was budget wasn't really an issue. It wasn't that expensive. But the townspeople, led by Gina Arena and some others, pulled together a great event, and of course, we were there to support that fully. And we will continue to react quickly to things that need to be reacted to quickly, and we will continue to react prudently and with common sense for all of the other matters that involve governing our town.
I just want to take a brief moment to kindly thank the sponsor of today's episode, the committee to reelect William Faulkner. Okay, so as you said, touching basically on transparency, right? A very popular campaign plank that is used very frequently in today's political sphere.
Yeah.
Do you think you've always operated with full transparency?
Completely. That's a perennial issue that comes up quite a lot. I will say, though, it has come up less frequently over the last several years. My first run 12 years ago, that came up a lot. People were like, well, you're not transparent, or the town board at the time wasn't transparent or wasn't transparent enough, and it needs to be more transparent. And I think that's changed for the better tremendously. Everything we do is published and posted in the newspapers. Everything we do meeting-wise is in an open forum. It's on It's on TV, it's on cable, it's on streaming services. Everything we do is broadcast. And that's a good thing. You want citizen participation for government to work well, and the citizens can't participate if they're kept in the dark. So we're all for transparency. The only thing we are precluded from being transparent about, and it makes sense, of course, are personnel issues, private personnel issues and salaries. The town has 89 employees, and some of those issues can be sensitive, and we have to respect that. And real estate, real estate, if the town is thinking or leaning, doing one thing or another, and that gets out into the marketplace, that could benefit fairly or unfairly one party or another when it comes to real estate matters. So those are things we kind of are obligated to and should keep behind closed doors. Other than that, every council member, and Rob as the supervisor, our cell phones are posted on the website, somersny.gov, and you can reach out to any and all of us. I would be amazed if anybody did not get back to you in 24 hours or less.
Wow. We did mention, we spoke about home rule.
Yeah.
Right. And the importance of it, maintaining home rule. Also, do you care on maybe touching on some of the ways that Albany has tried to infringe upon Somers?
Yeah. Their almost arbitrary application of wetland designation, I think has happened and will probably continue to happen. And I would also throw into that mix the roads. The state roads in Somers are not good. In fact, they're very, very bad. If you look by comparison at the town roads, they're quite good. We've got a plan every 10 years, plus or minus. All the roads in Somers are redone, repaved. Nick DeVito, our superintendent of highways, and his team do an outstanding job of keeping the roads absolutely fantastic in Somers. But they can't touch the state roads. And if you've ever driven on 202, and we all have, if you've ever driven on 118, and we all have, you'll notice that they've got potholes galore. They like to make excuses. Albany likes to make excuses about, we've patched it. Well, as anybody who's looked into this knows, those patches will last maybe a few months, and then they just come apart right away. So I would for this next coming term, I will continue to work with Matt Slater, our assemblyman, who's all for this, and trying to convince Senator Harcum that this is a bigger priority than it's been given. And I would really like to see the roads not redone, not just that strip on the right-hand side of the road, but just repave the entirety of 202 that goes through Somers would be a good first step in getting that infrastructure back.
So do you think if I got a flat tire on one of those roads, they would foot the bill for me?
That's a great question. I've heard that. I've never seen it done in practice, but if that's the case, and I think you're referring to a law or a procedure that says if you get a flat tire on a state road because of a pothole that is a known pothole and has previously been reported to the Department of Transportation, that they are responsible to repair your tire. Oh. And I think if that was done on a massive scale, you'd really get some people's attention.
I don't really want a flat tire, so I'm not going to
I'd prefer to avoid it. But right. I'd much prefer to avoid it.
You and the other town board members have been advocating for the people of Somers in regard to the NYSEG rate increases. Yeah. I know I've mentioned this personal plight of mine numerous times on this show. My budget billing is about $770 a month. I had stated I paid $1,400 for January, $1,400 for February, and I was away for a week, by the way, in February. I wasn't even home. So absolutely disgusting, in my opinion. Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see any type of relief?
I think it will get better for a couple of reasons. One is it just can't get any worse, right? The other, we can't fathom that it would get any worse. The other is we have an approach, and we're recycling basically our approach that was helpful 4 or 5 years ago. And that basically was simply to hold NYSEG's feet to the fire. Okay, NYSEG can't charge anything that the Public Services Commission of New York will not allow. So we are in meetings with the Public Service Commission. They will come back with their arguments saying that their infrastructure needs to be fixed and it needs to come up. And that's the discussion that's occurring today. But to borrow a page from a previous success, when we did this last time, it was an issue of continuity. It was an issue of service. It was an issue of simply literally keeping the lights on, which was a problem. 10, 15 years ago, much more so than it was today. So at least that consistency is a little bit better. Power outages has gone down a tremendous deal because we have had this committee to meet with NYSEG and other energy service providers. And just to kind of borrow a page from that, the success of that 5 or 6 years ago is kind of what led me to start and head up and co-chair the Somers Telecommunication Task Force. Well, very similar to electricity being vital. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I don't care what side of the aisle you're from. Similarly, internet capabilities are also really, really important. So because we had a committee, because we had a voice, because we were able to force NYSEG to the table a few years ago, I thought, well, let's do the same thing with the cable companies. Let's do the same thing with Fios. Let's do the same thing with Optimum or Altice or Cablevision, whatever they're calling themselves today, and do the same thing and hold their feet to the fire. And we did that, and I started the Somers Telecommunication Task Force in about 2018, 2019. Tony Sirico, who's my running mate, who has experience with MCI, another big telecommunication company, he chairs it. I co-chair it with him. And again, we're able to hold their feet to the fire. The interesting thing about that was, and I'd like to take more credit for just being lucky than is what really is the case. But we got lucky because they did start to prioritize this. They did start, and the increases and the downages from your cable company and your internet company have severely gone down. The nice thing about that is it was just before, what did I say, 2018, 2019? What happened at the end of 2019?
Right.
Oh, right. COVID hit. So I just can't imagine what it would be like to do telecommunications schools and virtual learning if we didn't have that internet connectivity improvement that, quite frankly, as a collaborative effort, we started.
Before we conclude this episode, are there any other campaign talking points or a final message that you'd want to share?
Yes, I would just like to encourage everybody to go out and exercise their right to vote, either early voting, write-in, or on November 4th. Right. A lot of people have fought and died for your right to vote. Don't sit home. It's a fact, about 50% of the folks really don't vote on a general average basis.
And especially it's not a presidential election.
Correct.
Or a gubernatorial election.
Correct.
So there'll be less of people coming out to vote.
Potentially, yes. But I will say that historically, we do actually have a really good track record. To your point, the even years are the midterm elections and congressional elections, and people will come out for that. Presidential elections, most people will come out every 4 years for the presidential elections. And these, of course, are on the odd years for now. Albany's changing that.
Yes.
Albany's saying, I'll come back to that in just 1 second. But we still have about a 50% track record for the odd year elections for people coming out. So I would definitely encourage and make your voice be heard. But to answer that question, it was a unique change. I would say it was an unwelcome change. But what had happened was Albany, again, thinks it knows better, and they decided, well, we're going to take all the elections that are countywide and townwide, which are on the odd years, and we're going to push them out to the even years so that they will coincide with a congressional election. They will coincide with a gubernatorial election. They will coincide with a presidential election. And I suppose there are some benefits to that, but the biggest cost to all of that is when we're on the odd years, we're really able to focus on our citizens and they're able to focus on us. They're not complicated. The waters aren't muddied by the national issues or the international issues, which are important and we pay attention to.
But it's not really relevant on a town level.
Not as much.
Right.
Not as much. So I would argue that you're taking that sort of voice and that sort of dedication and that sort of focus on local and county issues away from the citizens for your own benefit. I mean, there is a political advantage when you are the majority party and you push all the elections onto one period of time, in this case, the even years. There's a numerical, mathematical, strategic advantage to that. Is it respecting home rule? No.
I would have to agree with you.
No.
So what is I think you had mentioned the website, but what is the website once again, your Facebook account that people can search and learn more about you and your campaign?
Yeah, thank you. We have, we're at just about every event in person. So we like to make sure we have a presence, and it's easy to do because there are a lot of them and they're all a lot of fun. And you're amongst many, many friends when you go there. But most of my Facebook presence is on the Somers Republican Club. So the Somers Republican Club has a Facebook page that I post to, and an Instagram post that I'm very excited about because we've got some Gen Zers helping us with that. And that's Bill Faulkner 2025 at Instagram.
The general election is November 4th. Early voting starts October 25th.
Yes.
There you have it, folks. Bill Faulkner, Town Councilman of Somers, re-elect, constantly at work for the people of Somers. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you so much. Thank you, folks.
If anyone, a business owner or individual, would be interested in sponsoring future episodes, please reach out to us. Also, if you live in Westchester or Putnam County and would like to come on the show as a guest to discuss any concerns, ideas, or even to promote an upcoming event, we'd love to have you. Thank you for watching the podcast Beyond the Ballot. Like, subscribe, and leave us your comments. Thank you.
Be well.